Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Suzanne Peterson, and joining us today from the Australian Air Force is Corporal John Blenken. This evening we are honoured to acknowledge Lieutenant General Kobayashi Hiroki, Vice Chief of Staff, Japanese Ground Defence Force, accompanied by Major General Natasha Fox, Deputy Chief of Army. Major General Ferdinand Barandon, Deputy Chief of Staff for Intelligence Armed Forces of the Philippines, accompanied by Lieutenant General Gavin Reynolds, Chief of Defence Intelligence, and their accompanying delegations. We warmly welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of Tallangatta Primary School from Victoria. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. If able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this National Museum and Memorial came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they'd done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as described in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record that they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament. Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths of floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Gunner John Hawke. John Hawke was born on the 6th of February 1900 in Dimboola, Victoria, the son of Louisa and George Hawke. He grew up in Dimboola, where he worked as a painter, as well as serving in the Citizens Forces for 4 years. Hawke enlisted for service on the 26th of August 1918. As he had just turned 18, he brought a note of permission signed by his father. His mother was no longer alive. Hawke entered the recruit depot at Broadmeadows, but with the war ending shortly after he enlisted, he was discharged before seeing service. Hawke eventually married, and he and his wife Annie lived in Albert Park in Melbourne. A daughter, Leslie, was born to the couple in 1927. With the advent of the Second World War, Hawke again enlisted, where his first attempt at enlisting occurred when he was at the lower age limit. By June 1940, he was 40 years old, at the upper age limit. Shortly after enlisting, Hawke was evacuated to Queenscliff Hospital, but he returned to camp within a week. He was posted to the newly raised 3rd Light Anti-Aircraft Regiment, part of the Royal Australian Artillery, and began training at Werribee Racecourse. After a period of pre-embarkation leave, on the 29th of December 1940, Gunner Hawke and his comrades embarked from Melbourne, bound for overseas service. Arriving in the Middle East in January 1941, Hawke and his comrades continued their training. On the 6th of April 1941, German forces attacked Greece. From the outset, the Allied forces were vastly outnumbered. Some 58,000 men, including Gunner Hawke and his comrades in the 3rd Light Anti-Aircraft Regiment, were transported, and together with the Greek army, they faced 2 German armies. On the first day, the Germans made a devastating air attack on Piraeus. The Allies lost the initiative and never regained it. Within a week, the Allied forces were in retreat. Australian and New Zealand troops, redesignated the Anzac Corps, undertook successful local fighting, but withdrawal was inevitable. The evacuation began on the 24th of April, and over 50,000 troops were removed over 5 successful nights. A number of small, isolated groups and individual Allied soldiers who had been cut off from the retreat were left behind in Greece. Following the evacuation of Greece, the 3rd Light Anti-Aircraft Regiment was temporarily split up. Its 7th Battery, including Gunner Hawke, joined some 42,000 Allied troops in the defence of the island of Crete. Being the only Australian anti-aircraft unit on the island, 2 troops were allotted to Heraklion, 1 to Maleme, and the remainder of the battery to Suda Bay. Hawke was sent to the port town of Heraklion on the island's north coast. The anticipated German invasion was expected to include the capture of Heraklion, the easternmost point of the 3 key areas. A mixed force of Australians, British and Greeks prepared their defences. While seaborne invasion was possible, it was thought more likely the Germans would use paratroopers in an airborne landing. To soften up the defences, from early May, the German aircraft bombed the main objectives daily, including Heraklion. The 2 troops of the 7th Light Anti-Aircraft Battery fought doggedly with their 8 Bofors guns and suffered 6 killed and 11 wounded. Among them was Gunner John Hawke, who was killed in action on the 16th of May. He was 41 years old. He was initially buried at Heraklion, and the Germans went on to capture Crete by the end of May. Later, Hawke's remains were reinterred to the Suda Bay War Cemetery. His name is listed on the honour roll to my left among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of services and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Gunner John Hawke, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We'll remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.